Hey guys, it's Ann Yorks from the Flourbox, and today I have a really fun Thanksgiving cookie tutorial. I'm going to show you 5 different cookie designs perfect for Thanksgiving dinner. First, I'm going to show you how to make a Pilgrim Boy and Girl. Then I'm going to show you a stenciled pumpkin pie slice. And after that, we're going to take a look at 2 cookies using the same cutter, the fall tree and also a really cute Thanksgiving turkey. Now this tutorial is also matched with a cookie decorating kit. That means these essential cutters and stencils shown in the video are available in a kit on flourbox.com. Plus, check out the blog post on flourbox.com. It has information like what icing colors I'm using, what the cookie yield for this project is, and also free downloadable templates and royal icing transfer sheets. So you can find all of that on flourbox.com. All right, let's cookie it up. The first cookie I'm going to show you is the Pilgrim Boy, and this cutter might look familiar because I've also used it for a snowman face, and you can check out that tutorial as well. But today we're going to use it to make the pilgrim, and I've created a template for you to help with the piping of this design. You can see I already have it traced on the cookie surface. You can find the template on flourbox.com. We're going to start with outlining the cookie with tip number 2, and then I just want to flood in alternating areas. By flooding in the alternating areas, I'm really just going to reduce any color bleeding between light and dark icing colors. I'm going to let those icing areas dry for about an hour in front of a fan, and then I'm going to come back in and I'm ready to flood in the remaining areas, the hair and that little section on the hat. If you need to even out any of the areas, you can always just add a little bit more icing and tap it around with your scribe just to get a nice even look to your cookie. Once those icing areas have a chance to dry, it's time to add the details. I'm using a tip number 44 with my gold icing, and this is just a really quick way to add the buckle on the pilgrim's hat. I scribe a little bit just to smooth out those areas, but it's much quicker than piping and flooding. Now I still have a tip number 2 on my icing bag, and I'm going to add the remaining details to the hat. For his hair, I'm just going to follow the shape of the icing and just add some lines just to add some texture to his hair, because the rest of the cookie is pretty smooth, so that adds something interesting to that icing area. Now I'm ready to add his eyes. I'm going to use black flood icing. I like using flood for the eyes because it keeps the eye nice and round. And then I add a teeny tiny dot of the ivory for the catch light. That just brings him to life. I use a little dot of flood icing for the nose, and I still have tip number 2 on my black bag, but I'm using really light hand pressure to add the smile and the eyebrows. That pilgrim is so cute. Let me show you how to make the girl pilgrim. For this one, I'm going to use the acorn cookie cutter. So this is what it normally looks like when we decorate it as an acorn. But I have already traced my yellow outlines on here using the template. Again, you can find the template on the new blog post on flourbox.com. I'm just going to outline her hat area with the ivory color. Then I'll add the hair section and I'll outline the bottom of her face, and now I'm ready to flood in that icing. Notice how generous I am with the icing. I just love a nice full looking cookie. I'll let the face dry for about an hour in front of the fan, and then I'll come back to flood in the ivory. Now the ivory color is really easy to make. I actually just used a teeny tiny dot of the gold food coloring, and you can get tips on making these icing colors on the new blog post as well. I've shared an icing color guide. Once the hat has a chance to dry, I'm almost done flooding. I'm going to go back in, and now I'm using that gold icing, but this icing has several more dots of food gel in it, so it's much brighter than that ivory color I first created. And I'm just going to flood in her hair, and now I'm ready for the details. To keep things easy, I've kept tip number 2 on my icing bag, and I'm just piping the details on her bonnet. I've added a little brim, and then I'm gonna add some fold fabric lines for her as well. And a little infinity bow at the bottom, almost just piping like a sidewards figure 8 with a couple squiggles for the ties. And I'm gonna do her eyes the same way I did them on the Pilgrim Boy. So I'm using the black flood icing, and I'm adding a dot of that ivory just to add the catch light. Again, I added a nose, and I have that number 2 tip on my black icing, but I'm really using the lightest pressure possible just to keep those areas nice and thin. But using that light pressure means I don't have to switch to a different tip size. And our Pilgrim Girl is almost done. I'm just gonna add some eyelashes using the black thin food doodler marker. This is made out of food coloring, and it's really awesome for those tiny little details and accents. Just like the Pilgrim Boy, I'm gonna add a little texture to her hair, and then she's all done and she's ready to go to Thanksgiving dinner. Before I show you how to make the pumpkin pie slice, I just want to show you how I mix the icing for the pumpkin pie color. Normally I don't mix icing colors, I just use the color straight out of the bottle, and you can always see what colors I'm using on the icing guides that I provide on my blog. But for this one, I didn't want the straight up orange. I actually wanted to have it look a little bit a rustier orange, and so I first start with that orange color. Notice I put a really good squeeze in there, and I'm just mixing it till the color is all throughout. You can find this spatula on flourbox.com, and it's also in this Thanksgiving kit. It's my favorite spatula. And then to tone down the brightness, I'm actually going to add a really tiny dot of Buckeye Brown. Now, anytime I really want to control how much color I'm adding to my icing, instead of just squeezing it directly into my container, I'll actually squeeze that dot onto the spatula. That really prevents any mistakes of adding too much color to my icing, because if I accidentally squeeze too hard, it's on the spatula, I can wipe it off and try again. But you can see just that tiniest dot of brown really tones down this icing color and makes it the perfect color for a slice of pumpkin pie. So let me show you how to make that. I'm using the candy corn cookie cutter to make our pumpkin pie slice because I want to stencil Happy Thanksgiving on the top. So I really want lots of surface area, and this cutter is the perfect size. I'm going to generously fill in with my orange icing, and I'm going to let that dry for at least 6 hours in front of the fan, mainly because we're putting pressure on the surface of the icing, so it really needs a little extra time to set up. Now I'm gonna get that stencil in place. I just wanna be careful that it's not hanging off the cookie. And now I'm ready to slide that scraper across. And I'm gonna generously add that icing onto the surface of the stencil. And then before I pull it up, I just do one last pass and remove the excess. Now I'm ready to peel back that stencil real carefully to reveal the words Happy Thanksgiving. Now this cookie's almost done. I've switched the tip on my light brown icing to tip number 101, which is normally a rose petal tip, but it just so happens to make the perfect pumpkin pie crust as well. You just need to put a little wiggle in it. I'm going to show you one more stenciled cookie, and this one is so much fun because I'm using all of the icing colors and it just has a really beautiful finish. So I'm going to start the design by outlining in the ivory color and flooding in the entire area. Now this cookie shape might look familiar because we're also going to use it for the turkey at the very end of this tutorial, but I've used it in the past as well for a peacock cookie design. So this is one cutter that's pretty versatile. So now that I have my base icing flooded in, I'm going to go back in with my flood icing and I'm just going to add dots of icing. It's important that my consistencies are similar when I'm doing any wet on wet technique. And I'm just gonna go around the edge. I really wanna keep the dots on the edge because I'm gonna be stenciling in the center of that cookie. and I'm overlapping some of the dots. Some of them are really big, some of them are really small. So it just a variety of sizes and locations makes that really interesting. Now I'm ready to add the words. Give thanks with a grateful heart. That's a lot of words. That would take me probably 5 minutes to pipe that, but I can stencil it pretty quickly and get that done. Now I'm gonna pipe a couple of details for the trunk of the tree. And before we're finished with this, I just want to add a little bit of extra texture to that colorful leaf area on the outside. So I still have my flood icing handy, and I'm going back and just filling in any of the open areas with a couple more dots of icing. Let me show you how awesome the texture looks. It really brings it to life and makes those leaves look like they have a foreground and a background. It just looks like a beautiful, delicious cookie. So now let's use that same cookie cutter shape to make the star of the show, my favorite cookie, the Thanksgiving turkey. Notice I've already traced the outline of the turkey's body onto the cookie. You could also use the template in your projector, and you can find that and download it on flourbox.com. You can use your projector or a template to outline these feather areas, but I find that it's totally doable to use the shape of the cookie to set off those outlines. Then I just want to flood in alternating icing areas. We want to let those icing areas dry to create that really beautiful dimension between the different colors of the feathers. And to create that feather texture, I'm using my flood icing, and I'm just flooding in horizontal lines, and I usually fit about 5 lines per feather. Then I take my scribe and just run it down the center of those horizontal lines to create that really cool feathered look. Now before we go any further, let me show you how I made the turkey's wings. I actually used a royal icing transfer sheet, and I made these the day before I decorated. I piped and flooded them just like I would a cookie, and then I peeled them off just before I'm ready to decorate. I flood in the turkey's body, and then I just get those wings into place, and they stick to the wet icing and stay in place. Now it's time for some fun details. I add a couple loops to the wings, some scallops to the turkey's body, a few teardrops of icing on the turkey's head. Don't forget the feet, and then I pipe 2 small dots for the eyes, a beak, and don't forget the gobbler, or the wattle, or the red thing, or whatever it's called. If you know what it's called, just post it down in the comments below. I think that's something I need to Google. But now our adorable Thanksgiving turkey is done and ready for the party. Thank you so much for watching today's tutorial. I hope you enjoyed this closer look at Thanksgiving cookies. If you're recreating them at home, definitely tag me on social media using @theflourbox_shop. Also, don't forget to post questions. I'd love to help you along the way. And if you're interested in checking out the kit with the cutters and the stencils, you can find it on flourbox.com. That's all for today. Happy decorating!